All right, hey, Protectors, welcome to the Education of a Weaponized Man. I'm Greg LaBeouf here with Dustin Doderay, Brad Vanderleit. We're back again every week, again, sharing the education of a weaponized man, trying to help share information for those good men that want to be able to protect themselves, their families, other innocent people in a world that just seems to be getting fucking worse every day. We just continue to hear about violent criminals, repeat offenders, destroying fucking lives. So listen, tonight I thought what would be fun. Again, these guys never know what I'm going to do, so I thought what would be tonight is I real quick before the podcast, I just off the top of my head wrote down 30. I got the 30. There's infinitely more, but I got 30 phrases. Some of them are mantras, phrases, sayings that we use within the warrior community, within the weaponized community. That I mean, a lot of these people will have heard of them, heard these phrases somewhere in life, but a lot of them don't know that either they originate from the warrior community or that they're integral to our training methodology mindset. And so I thought what would be fun is I'll go through my list of 30. I'm going to throw them out there and I'm going to get your guys' reactions to them, what their meaning is to you. And we're just going to kind of dive deep. And because the thing I love about this is when you have a saying, especially when it pertains to training and warriorship, there's different perceptions, there's different viewpoints. So they can mean something different to each warrior. And I thought that would just be so valuable because this reflects a way of thinking. And if for those that are listening and watching this, if you share this mindset, I think you're really going to love hearing the different perspectives and see if they match yours. And if you don't, if you've never heard of these, they're going to enlighten you and they're going to expand your warrior mindset. So that's what we're going to dive into tonight. Back in 30 seconds, and we're going to hit it. Hey, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Greg LaBeouf, and I'm sharing insights for how I went from the victim of a brutal attempted murder to weaponizing my mind and body, mastering the tool of violence so that I can protect myself and my family from violent criminal assault, and how for the past 30 years, I've been helping good people just like you do the same. Welcome to the Education of a Weaponized Man podcast. All right, we're back. Okay, so I titled this episode Bullets Don't Work. And that's where we'll start. Again, I have a list of 30 that I just wrote down. They're not in any particular order of importance. They're just 30 that I dropped down. So I might jump around on my list a little bit depending on time. So bullets don't work. Let's start with the title of this podcast, and I'll just go through the complete saying. So the mantra is this: bullets don't work, so keep shooting till you find one that does. So listen, what does that mean to you guys?
For me, it's just it really connects me to our avalanche strategy, obviously, right? And it's just you just keep firing until that threat is gone, right? Bullets don't work. So for me, if I was gonna really hone in on it, it's this misconception that like, oh, if I shoot you, you're dead. If I stab you, you're dead. And it's like I think it's a very dangerous mindset to be like, oh, if I punch you, I'd knock you out. And it's like, no, that doesn't work, right? You just got to keep firing and just having that unrelenting barrage, because it's not about the bullet, it's about the energy. And it's like I'm gonna keep firing bullets. Some of them are gonna land, some are gonna miss, but at the end of it, what's gonna make me stop is that there's no longer a threat in front of me, right? So that's kind of for me. That's where I connect to that particular saying.
Okay.
Yeah, mine's very similar in the sense that it's like we often talk about how, for us, the good guy, it's like this isn't personal. Like a violent criminal assaults me, I don't personally get emotionally invested in, well, now I hate you specifically because you did this to me. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not personal. It's like Brad said, that's an energy. There's an energy in front of you, and until that energy is gone, you're in danger. Your family's in danger. And so that mantra of like bullets don't work, keep shooting until you find one that does, is like Brad said, it's that you don't stop, you don't quit, you just have to keep on going, keep on dishing out, that whatever you need to do to put an end to that energy to get yourself safe again. So, it's not getting overly focused on the tools and the techniques. We talk a lot about other martial arts and how they get so hung up on, mastering tools and mastering technique. And it's like, yeah, that's great to be that highly proficient at tools and techniques that we use. But at the same time, it's like, you just need to duplicate the result. right? So, not every elbow or knee or eye gouge or whatever it is has to be perfect. You got to just keep doing it until that energy is dissipated, and then just carry on.
Perfect. Okay. I'll throw my 2 cents in here. So listen, bullets don't work. So keep shooting to find one that does. I echo. Mine's obviously tied into what you guys what it meant to you. But I'll come at it from the Hollywood point of view, right? Most people when you start working in this shit, like you don't know what you don't fucking know. And so where's your reference point, or what's your basis for damage? And so meaning most people think that if someone has a gun and they pull that trigger and that bullet hits you, you're fucking dead, right? Someone shoots you with a fucking gun, you're dead. And that's simply not true. I mean, most people right now, you say, well, who's your favorite fucking rapper? That guy's probably been shot half a dozen fucking times, right? As well as, there's so many stories, law enforcement, military, all this type of stuff, where people have been shot point blank in the face, half their heads blown off, yet they fucking live. You know what I mean? And so the overarching, mindset of this that you have to have is that I don't ever put that much faith in any of my tools, right? So if we're talking an elbow's like a bullet. An elbow's like a bullet, an elbow's like a knee, an eye gouge, or whatever it is. And it's like they don't work. So if you're taught that, listen, bullets don't work. So you're taught to keep shooting at the target till the target goes down. Shoot until the target goes down. What happens if you had a misfire, you had a dud, whatever the fuck it is, bullets don't work. And when you start from that position of like, listen, you can have brutally efficient tools. You can shove your thumb and understand how to scoop out the eyes and clear out the eye socket and stuff like that. Again, a bullet, like they have the potential to do extreme damage. But if you go, listen, they don't work, meaning that I'll just keep shooting until something goes down. There's more survivable value in that mindset. That way, when you get someone that's in close quarter, you get somebody that's in a situation, they fire a head, but they fire an elbow, they do an eye gouge, they slash with their knife, they stab with their knife, they pull the trigger on a gun, whatever it is, they are not expecting Hollywood type results.
They're not shocked.
Yeah, they're not shocked. They're not surprised. They're not startled. They're not bewildered, right? I've had guys that we train, and they're early on in their training, and they've heard the same, but yet they find themselves in a situation. And all of a sudden, they come back and go, dude, I fucking smoked this guy with an elbow. I gouged his eye out. Like, I mean, there was 2-3 guys. I bottled one guy, did all these things. And I'm like, yeah. And it's like, and the fucking guy, like, he got back up. It's like, when I hit him, it's like I didn't hit him. And I could feel, man, that was like one of the best elbows of my life. And it's like, yeah. I'm like, what'd you do? No, I just did it again. And then I hit him with the bottle. Then I did this again. So you just kept going. Yeah. And it's like, so at the end of the day, are you okay? Yeah. So everything's good. Yeah. But what you're talking about is how the elbow didn't work. And it's like, yeah, but it did work. Well, it worked, but I had to hit him with like 4 or 5 of them. Yeah. Bullets don't work, dude. Like, people are adrenalized. People are altered. Their, pain tolerance is different. They're on fucking bath salts and all kinds of crazy shit. I mean, people they have a psychotic break. You think that their pain receptors are processing the same way? No. So again, you have this concept where people start going, oh fuck, I get it. Bullets don't work, man. So there's no shock. There's no Hollywood expectation. That's one of the biggest things, and we all agree on that, right? But that's a powerful saying, and it's a good thing for people to learn early on. Okay. So anyways, that's bullets don't work. Keep shooting till you find one that does. Let's jump to the second one. We covered this a little bit in the last couple podcasts, so real quick, let's just go through combat accuracy.
Oh yeah. Again, it's like it's all about expectation. You know what I mean? You can't, just because you can do something to a certain level of proficiency in your training, you can't expect that in the fog of war that combat is. I mean, it's toxic, corrosive, septic. You can't expect that every single tool, technique, tactic is going to come out with the same level of proficiency. So that's why we have the saying of, oh, it's combat accuracy. It's like, under the pressures of combat, yeah, you're not going to perform at exactly the perfectly high level that you're used to. And that's okay. And all the more reason for the saying we just covered. Bullets don't work, keep shooting until you find one that does, because of combat accuracy.
Sure. Perfect. Brad?
For me, it's immediately what it backed up in front of in my head was, that's just the name of the game. It's part of it, right? It's an element of violence. It's an element of protecting yourself against against violence for your family, your loved ones, whatever it happens to be. It's like what Dustin said. It's like, you know how much shit is happening? Not just physiologically in your body, but everything else everything's moving. You're being attacked. There's one guy, two guys, there might be other people around. How much stuff is actually in this, like, just toxic and corrosive environment? And you think everything's going to be perfect when you're facing violence? It doesn't happen that way. It's not a reality of combat. It's not a reality of defending yourself against violence. So it's like when you have combat accuracy, it's like that's just one of the elements that is part of the situation. And I think that you need to have that part of your training and conditioning, because if you're training in a sterile environment, those two worlds are not synced up. So you want to condition yourself in a dirty, toxic, corrosive environment where you're along the way, you're dealing with combat accuracy. And it's no surprise to you. It's like that, oh yeah, like that was just combat accuracy. You know, you could just chalk it up to that because it's part of it. And you become okay with that when that actually becomes part of the environment that you're growing and developing.
Okay, perfect. So just for clarity, combat accuracy is coloring outside the lines, right? If you take someone as an adult who's a professional artist, and you know they're coloring, right? Obviously, a professional is going to stay inside the lines. It is going to be tight. It's going to be perfect. It's going to be precise. What both Dustin and Brad are hitting on is the term combat accuracy. That phrase forces us to integrate into our perception and our expectations the reality that you might be a professional artist, but you got to understand that you're painting or you're coloring on a fucking small boat in the middle of a hurricane. Right? You know what I mean? You're not going to stay inside of the lines like you would if you're in a perfect sterile environment. And so, but that's okay. What's that?
I was going to say roller coaster.
Yeah,
but I think hurricane is way more messy and way more.
You're in a fucking 18 or 16-foot aluminum fishing boat in the middle of a fucking hurricane.
Way more accurate. Too.
Yeah, it's combat. It's fucked up. But here's the thing, right? As a professional, even though you're coloring outside the lines, if you were a fucking complete amateur and your training didn't prepare you for that, that's why your training has to reflect the pressures of combat. So your training environment has to create the toxic, corrosive, and septic stimulus so that you become inoculated. Right? It's very, very powerful. Again, an artist who's used to working on a stable platform in a quiet environment and all the other type of stuff, they're going to be used to that. And so all of a sudden they're in this chaotic environment and they don't have the muscle control. They don't have the dexterity. They don't know how to compensate or feel how the motions. It's all unfamiliar to them. Right, so that's combat accuracy, and again, if you to just hear it and then go into deeper to it, you can see how important this is. Because when you're in it, the chaos of real violence, and yet your training has reflected that, that's just combat accuracy. So the coloring outside the lines happens, but you get very good at containing that. Right? There's a difference in when you go outside the lines a little bit and when you come right off the fucking page. You know what I mean? You're not even sitting on the fucking chair anymore. The easel's gone overboard and you're like, I'm totally fucked here. Like, you know, that's the fog of war. That's the chaos, the condition black. So combat accuracy is the ability to, again, have realistic expectations and yet also develop the attributes to be able to fire your tools not in these perfect, environments, and to be 100% okay. And not only does that not cause you hesitation or pause or stress, that actually it feeds you. Because it gives you feedback and you just dial that in even more from the misses. You know what I mean? Course correct, right? You make a mistake, course correct. So combat accuracy, that's kind of what the deeper meaning is for me as well. So, okay, let's jump to the next one. Oh, this will be interesting. I want to see what you guys share with this one. Should have versus could have.
Oh, where to start? How many times have we?
I'll hit this first, and then Brad can go. Don't shit all over yourself. Right, Tony Robbins.
Don't shit all over. I love that. Yeah.
Well, you could have given it a different spin.
Could have.
Yeah, you know what? It's one of those things, and for me, it is at first glance, it is an unconscious way that I feel that we talk to ourselves. We fuck shit up. We make mistakes. And, oh, I should have done this. I should have done that. And it really has that negative impact on our psyche. And it's something that I think that, well, we've strained it. We talked about it. This was part of our process, and it was very unconscious. And when you don't know, especially when you're trying to grow and develop, what terminology you're using with yourself, it's very detrimental, right? Because again, why it became part of our terminology is because they think, oh, you should have done this. Well, that means I did something wrong. And but what happens is, like, there's nothing wrong when you're trying to defend yourself against violence, right? Again, we talk about bullets don't work. We talk about combat accuracy. That's just the reality of combat. So it's like, oh, you don't want to shoot yourself to death. And it's like, no, when you're looking to grow and improve, you could have done other things, right? That may have been more efficient than what you did, but what you did was still good. It just was a less efficient way, right? So again, a little bit, it is being kind to yourself. It is also being very conscious of how you talk to yourself and other people, right? If you're doing an AAR for other people and giving feedback, it's a more healthy way to grow and develop. For me, that's where I'm at with it.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's kind of just going to just literally be pretty much a reiteration, because Brad was hitting all the same buzzwords that were popping up in my head right after you asked it, and the first one for me was the same. It was just that the idea of not having that number one negative self-talk. Like it's got to be a positive spin. So when you say, well, I should have done this, it implies right away that, well, I definitely did something wrong. And it's like, no, you could have done that. And like Brad said, it's like there's more proficient and there's less proficient. It's not that it's wrong. It just maybe wasn't the most proficient thing you could have done in that particular moment with that particular stimulus in that particular context, right? So yeah, very, very similar in that. And again, like, it's funny if you didn't plan it, but it feels like these just literally feed into one another, because the bullets don't work because of, that's why there's combat accuracy. Because we have combat accuracy, we have to be like, no, you could have done that, not you should have, because that's combat accuracy. Like, not everything is going to be perfect every single time. So yeah, you could have, but not should have.
Yeah, perfect. My 2 cents on this is that maybe a lot of people don't know this, but when you're training, 73 to 75% of all learning happens in what they call the AAR, the after action review, meaning that if you've done something, a drill, or you've done a scenario, when that's finished, when that action is completed, you review it. You do an after action review, and that can just be very simple, like a tailgate meeting, just very simply, you sit around, or it can be you are watching video of what's just been executed, but you sit around and you debrief it. That is where the learning takes place, not during the action of it. 73 to 75% of all learning happens in the after action review. During that review, we have a tendency to think back, and if we're doing this in a group, as somebody's thinking back, or you're giving them your perspective, your feedback, and we have a tendency to be, now you see right here, when you did this or this, you should have done that, or you should have done this, or you should have done that. And, we can say that in the first person, which is even more detrimental. Oh, fuck, the second I did that, I thought, fuck, I should have gone left instead of going right. I should have done this. I should have done that. And what Brad and Dustin have already stated is that you got to now step back and understand the importance of tactical self-talk. Your words, your words can become your thoughts. And even worse, those words that become thoughts become feelings. And our feelings are what drive our action. So if you're using limiting or negative words, like I should have, as these guys already stated, should have implies absolute error. I should have, meaning what I did was a fucking mistake. And both Brad and Dustin mentioned this, because I could have used this as a separate saying, but I knew it would come up in this conversation. We don't talk in terms of right or wrong. And both these guys have already said this. What you do is either less efficient or more efficient. And that's really the way to look at it. You know what I mean? That was the least efficient thing or a less efficient thing to do, meaning that all of a sudden a piece of language comes out and it is the word could. I could have done this, and that would have, in hindsight, that would have been more efficient. So next time I could do this, I could do that. You get what I mean? And so all of a sudden that language allows for the combat accuracy. It allows for the fact that you colored outside the lines. Shit happens under fucking pressure. That's the reality. That's the fucking fog of war. That's the truth of battle, right? And you're always training to hone up. But should-haves become a very negative spiral way of thinking. And so for me, just my clarity with this on people and for myself, and it also is like, listen, you're training, and when your training's hard and your training's real, you're gonna fuck up. If you're not making mistakes, if you're not finding the thing that'll get you killed the quickest, which means you're fucking up. You're creating drills and scenarios and things that you know are gonna exploit gaps in your thinking, your feeling, and your physical actions. If you're not doing that, then you're not training. And so if you are doing that, your language needs to support the offensive mindset, meaning what's the language and self-talk that you use perpetually so that you're okay with failure and knowing that failure is just, is just a setup for the comeback. You get what I mean? Like, and that's one word of that is the could. Oh, I could this, I could that, I could this. When you talk in terms of coulds instead of shoulding all over yourself, if you talk in terms of could, do you know what the next words out of your mouth will always be? Let's fucking do that again. Because could is like, oh fuck, I could have this, I could have this. It's options. It's like, oh fuck, oh yeah, let's do this. I could have this, I could have this. Let's fucking do that shit again. Why? Because I'm gonna. Coulds lead to gonna. And wanta. Shoulds are like, I should have this, I should have this. And then someone says, hey, let's set it up again. Oh fuck. I hope I don't do that again. I hope you get what I mean. Like it's such maybe it's a small thing to people, but when you're training and you're failing, because you're gonna fail, it's massive. It's a massive difference. And there's other language that we use that supports that, obviously, but that was one of the big ones that I know that we really work with people, and I know that each of us has had a real personal growth moment in our education on our path to weaponizing. That was a big significant change when we realized that, because we were just talking and weren't realizing that we were, self-sabotaging, so to speak, right? So, okay, so that's my point on that one. So, okay, this would be interesting too. Do something because it is something.
Oh yeah, that one, like, I mean, I think especially for Brad and I and guys who've been around as long as us, I think one of the biggest things that hits me when you say that is because that's not what we used to say. Mm-hmm. We used to say, do something before it becomes something. And that was our way of trying to get people to pull the trigger. You know what I mean? Like when the stimulus was there, we wanted a conditioned response. And that's how we were trying to get people to sort of buy into that way of training. And it was do something
it got to the physical point.
Yeah. Before it becomes something, like you got to do something, because before you get hit in the face, you got to do something. And then as our training evolved and we got smarter, we realized, that's you shouldn't be so focused on the physical part of it. Something's already happening. It's all the pre stuff, right? It's all the pins. And then actually back in those days, we didn't even have the word pins, which maybe that's on your list. I don't know, but add it. but yeah, so it's like then once we realized like how important, we always knew it was important, but just we didn't realize that we were indirectly shifting people's focus down the timeline into where the physical happens, that point of no return. And it's like, no. There's so much happening before that. We need to start having people take action much, much sooner. And so that phrase had to change, do something because it is something, because something is already happening. And again, I think most people would think, well, nothing's happening until somebody throws the first punch. And it's like, oh my God, like it's in a way, it's already over at that point. It's almost determined who's already won or lost at that point, potentially, because so much stuff is happening before that people for sure are not trained in, don't understand. And then I think that's where like what percent of our training is all about that. Like, yeah, we spend a lot of time doing the physical, but when it really comes down to it, our emphasis isn't the physical. It's the pins and it's everything else as far as making people infinitely safer in a very short amount of time. If you gave me only a few hours, like what am I spending my time on? it's the pins, it's understanding violence and violent criminals and blueprints, and then yeah, okay, at the end, okay, let me quickly give you a few skills like throwing a hot coffee in someone's face.
Yeah.
So yeah, to me, it's that there was that really big shift, and then just that new emphasis on something's already happening, so you already better be operational.
Yeah. And just for those that might not know, PINS stands for pre-incident indicators, meaning that it's the body language, the behavior, and the communication patterns that allow you to recognize when somebody is escalating up and actually is becoming a genuine imminent threat to you. So that's what Dustin, when he says PINS, pre-incident indicators, reading those signs. Okay. And Brad, do something because it is something.
There's a lot in this one. Even just like how many times have we had comments, and I'm kind of, it may seem like this is irrelevant, but how many times have we had comments like, you can't be teaching people that stuff. Like that's like, you can't be teaching people and talking to people about lethal force. Like that's for the police and that's for the military. And it's like, they're like, what if they get in trouble? Like, and it's like, how hard it is to get good people to take like an action to defend their lives sometimes, because they always benefit the doubt themselves to death, right? That was these two kind of go hand in hand, yep. Right? So it's like they do something because it is something. It's like, well, maybe I'll wait. Maybe they'll go away. Maybe they'll just turn the other way. Maybe they'll stop. Maybe they'll do this. And it's like, it was a way for people to say, like what Dustin said, not waiting until someone throws a punch, working more on the back end. The minute, the second, the fraction of a second that you have that heart rate, whoa, your intuition feels something. It is something. So do something. Are we saying go straight into the physical and gouge you guys' eye out? No, that could be like, oh, take inventory. What's happening in the environment that made me feel this way? Oh, there's something over here. I'm going to remove myself from the situation. But I felt that. And just allowing yourself to believe and listen, right? Don't deny that it was something. Oh, I'm just being paranoid or I'm being silly. No, your intuition felt something. Listen to it. It does it for two reasons: for your soul protection and because it was triggered, right? So it's like, just allow your body to listen to that, take whatever action because it happened for a reason. It already is something. Now, is it massive or is it small? Who knows? Yeah. But it is something, yeah. And taking action, right? Yeah. So.
Yeah, I love it. I think you guys covered all the points on this. The only thing I would reiterate, and you used the word a few times, is it's that saying exists. Do something because it is something, to give people permission, and that's what. And you said it. They need permission because and you guys covered all the points, but like that, most times this works real well when the earlier you do something in a crisis, the greater it impacts the overall result. So do something because it is something. Get up and walk away. You remove yourself. It can be as simple as that, and people would undervalue how powerful that was. And they won't do it because, like Brad said, they see it, they feel it, they hear it, and then they ignore it. And so that gets rid of denial.
I think too, like I know, guarantee you guys have been asked this 100 times. I don't know how many times, but you start to talk to people about this whole process and training in this and educating, weaponizing. And a lot of times one of the first things people ask you, have you ever used it? And it's like, yeah, because it is something. Like, I use it all the time, but maybe not in the way you're hoping. Maybe not the Hollywood-esque, like, took on 70 men and all that. Like, yeah, no, but like you said, Greg, like, there's been times where I've gotten up and I've walked out.
Yeah.
Like, that's
it. You run it. Anyone runs into a Navy SEAL or runs into a cop, and they want to hear about the 60-second. Bang the bullets kind of thing, right? They don't want to hear about the boring, 16 months worth of workup or 5 years of and all the stakeouts and the boring shit and all, you know what I mean? They want to just they want the sizzle off the steak, right? So totally. That's awesome. But well said. I really think that covers that one. That was really, really good. Okay. Number 5 that we'll go into is war of attrition. What's that?
Are we going to get through 30 tonight?
No, I wrote in the title too, 10 and 10 other things. I just wanted to make sure we had a ton. That's just all just came off. We have a lot of sayings, and so I thought, well, I'll have as many as I can just in case we go quick, right? But you guys got interesting things to say, so we're only on number 5: war of attrition versus war of annihilation.
War of attrition versus war of annihilation. This hits me in just the complete mindset shift that people have, and I know like everything is connected, like as Dustin said, because this is the thing where I think people who lack training come in and have an expectation of what they would do, right? I would do this, I would do that, and I would just completely dominate, right? And for me, it's like, it's not really, that leads into, I believe, punishment, which is dangerous. It's just a wrong mindset shift, right? It's playing into the adversary's strengths, right? Well, I'm just gonna fucking dominate, and it's like, well, there's always somebody bigger, there's always somebody stronger, there's always somebody better. If it doesn't happen to be in front of you right now, well, then put a knife in their hand or put 2 knives in 2 people's hands. Like you're always outmanned and outgunned. So, shifting that mindset changes how you go into operational mode, right? War of attrition is more cunning, more deceptive, more Trojan horse, more things of that nature, where you're not playing toe to toe. You're not like, yeah, well, I'm bigger, I'm stronger, fuck you, try it. I got, like, what are you gonna do? That's not a survivor mindset.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Brad. I think, to successfully pull off a war of annihilation, you kind of have to be bigger, stronger, better skilled, just better at everything. It comes down to like, well, now you're chasing people who are always also training, and just you're not always going to be the best, like Brad said. And it's so easy for them to make you so much weaker just by giving them extra people, extra weapons, whatever it is, different contexts. But to me, it's like, the first thing that hit me is like, I'm David, not Goliath. And it just speaks exactly to what Brad is saying. It's like, we're not going to be the biggest and the strongest and the best. It's just not possible. Plus, we're unfortunately getting older every day too. You know what I mean? And just like that quote from Dazed and Confused, it's like the high school girls stay the same age, the same thing. I keep getting older, but the violent criminals stay the same age.
Yeah.
So they're potentially young and healthy, and it's like, I'm in pretty good shape for 44, but like eventually I'll be 84, and I still intend to protect myself and those who matter to me, right? So, it's like, again, I'm David, so it has to be a war of attrition. And much like Brad was kind of alluding to, if you're not the biggest and the strongest, if you can't do the war of annihilation, then it's like you have to have strategies. And that's one of the biggest part of what we do. If you're the biggest, the strongest, and the best, maybe tools, techniques, few tactics, maybe that's all you need to win. But for us, it's like, that's not good enough. It's like, we have to have strategy. And Brad, he said Trojan horse, like one of the best one. Well, none of them are the best. They're all super important, but one of the first ones people learn, and just so powerful. But yeah, I think for me, it's very much that we're Goliath, not David. We're David, not Goliath.
Yeah. I like the explanations you guys gave. I like the David and Goliath analogy. And I think the only thing that I can add to expand on that is just when people first walk in, it's one of the first mindset shifts, one of the paradigm shifts that I really start working on. And it's also kind of what I use to qualify people. Because when I'm first talking to somebody, they might genuinely have a need. Everyone has a need to want to defend themselves. But I really try to discover where their paradigm or their mindset and their perception sits. Do they more identify with the, Goliath type thing, meaning I'm big, I'm strong, I want to learn how to better annihilate people? And of course, they don't come out and say it that way. But, is that where they're more centered? Or, which is, by the way, conventional warfare. Meaning, if you're the United States of America and you want something from some little third world country, if politics didn't matter, you would just walk in there and fucking annihilate them because you have superior manpower, superior technology, superior resources, superior everything. You just go in there and fucking annihilate you. But if you were that small country like Tibet, when people were trying to invade, you go unconventional warfare and you start guerrilla warfare. So you start a war of attrition, right? Even in Iraq, the Iraq war, a war of attrition, because it's like, well, we're just going to wear you down, like physically, mentally, emotionally, morally, like just we're going to, so it is a shift when you're talking about weaponizing. You have to be able to accept that, it's bad. Predators are opportunistic. Predators are predatory, right? Meaning, they're predators for a reason. Because they hunt in a predatory fashion. So they're looking to exploit. So majority of those situations mean we have to learn the strategies, tactics, and tools of attrition-based warfare, unconventional warfare. Okay, so yeah, I thought you guys did a great job of explaining that one as well. So the next one, this one's pretty simple. Maybe we only need one person to answer it. So whoever hits first, go ahead. But in violence, you only have two choices. All right, and why do we tell people that? There's only two choices in violence.
Yeah, remove yourself, or remove remove yourself from the situation, or remove the situation, so to speak.
Yeah,
because what else can you do?
Yeah.
That's it. It's that simple.
Now, I know this is overly simplistic, right? And so Dustin nailed it, right? There's only, it is black and white. But there are details of grayness to it, especially if you don't study the pre-incident, if you don't study violence. But if you really break this down, there's two primary things of violence, right? There's what we call antisocial aggression and asocial violence. And so let's just understand these two. Antisocial aggression is what?
It's just people arguing, being
okay, but it comes down to one word: choice.
Oh, sure.
Like 100%. you have like antisocial aggression is I'm in their face, I'm in Dustin's face or Brad's face, and I'm rude, inappropriate, aggressive, maybe even violent. But there is choice, meaning what? You have the opportunity to either remove yourself, de-escalate, or deter. You have choice. Even though I'm rude, inappropriate, aggressive, you say, but the motherfucker's being rude to me. He's being rude to my girl. He's being rude to my kids. He's being inappropriate. He's being this. But you can remove, de-escalate, deter, meaning you have a choice. Now, I'm not saying that you can't do things to stand up for yourself or this, that, whatever, but I'm saying there is choice. And so when we said there's only two options when it comes to violence, one of those was remove yourself from the situation. And that is both a legal and a moral obligation that you have to fulfill. But so that's antisocial. The second type of situation is asocial violence, and that is where you are devoid of choice. Meaning they will not let you remove yourself. They will not accept de-escalation or deterrence. They're not going to fucking accept that shit. Now you are devoid of choice. So the second choice you have in violence, if that's true, then remove the situation. And each of those we say what? So either A, remove yourself from the situation, or remove the situation, and you should be able to do either without
prejudice.
Without prejudice. What does that really mean? Because I think that's the deeper meat on this. Without prejudice, because that's not fucking easy.
Yeah.
Because there's
again, I was gonna say, yeah, you have to strip the ego and the emotion and everything else it all has to be stripped away. That is not relevant in that moment. It can't be.
Yes.
It makes me think of conviction.
Okay. 100%. Man of actions, man of conviction. Now, let me throw, this is one of my other ones, but it fits perfectly here. There are the three types of fights. What are the three types of fights?
The fight you train for, the fight that you get into, and the fight that you have with yourself after the fact.
On the way home.
So when we say either A, remove yourself from that situation, or remove the situation and do either, whichever is appropriate, do it without prejudice. Without fucking, again, now three types of fights. There's the shit you train for, the shit you get into, and then the shit you say to yourself on the way home out. I should have done this, and I remember, now we're back to the shouldas. I should have, you're shoulding all over yourself. Why did I let that motherfucker talk to me like that? Man, he was so rude and inappropriate to you, honey. I should have fucking or that's what somebody's saying to you. Why did you let that guy speak to me that way? And blah, 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 blah. Because Remove yourself from the situation. Legal and moral obligation to do that. That's a fight, antisocial aggression. You have to remove yourself from that situation if and when possible. If that's not possible, then you execute and you remove that situation. And without prejudice. Because there's people that if they do something physical and they relay injury because they had no choice, they felt they had no choice, their life was in danger, they also can beat the fuck out of themselves on the way home. They feel guilt. Why? Because they're good people. Doesn't matter what he did in that moment. What you're living with is the fact, but by your hand, you took human life. Or you forever altered somebody's life. And it might be macho to sit here and go, whatever, who gives a fuck? That guy fuck with me, fuck him. That's a bunch of bullshit. Right? Then you're part psychopath. And some people are like, yeah, you're fucking right, Sam. Oh, yeah, whatever. The realities of all this shit is that it's not like when you're alone at night off the battlefield, you might understand that what you did was necessary. But it doesn't mean that you didn't take a piece of trauma pie with you. Ending someone's life is no joke. Even if you don't end their life, going at another man because you have no choice with the intent and the willingness to take his life is no fucking joke. That changes you. So again, for people just to understand, there's two choices you have. Remove yourself or remove the situation. There's a lot of depth to that needs to be unpacked, but that's why that saying's there. Because for a lot of people, they're very confused. It's shades of gray. Should I, shouldn't I, can I, can't I, will I get in trouble, won't I get in trouble? Like that's toxic. That's gonna lead to massive piece of trauma pie. When you don't know your legal rights and you don't know the sequencing of violence, so you don't know if you're justified in pulling the trigger or if your emotions cause the pull of a trigger. Who puts a loaded firearm in the hand of an emotionally stunted individual, an emotionally unbalanced individual? There's going to be a tremendous amount of regret all the way around for everybody. Okay, so I think that's a very powerful saying, and so hopefully everyone gets an idea of why we use it and why we go deep and explore that.
Again, do something because it is something.
100%. Do something because it is something. And whether that's remove yourself or remove the situation, do something because it is something. Well put. Good tie back on that one. Okay, let's jump to the next one. I think we'll pass that one. Oh, let's go with this one because this will be fun. You got to come out of the bubble bath.
Oh.
Yeah, that's such a good story that you'll maybe have to share after. But yeah, I think for me, it's just that ability to click in. That's another expression we use all the time. But it's that ability to have all your capabilities, mindset at the ready with the flip of a switch. And again, without prejudice and because of the particular saying you chose, coming out of the bubble bath. So yeah, you might be naked when violence chooses to present itself. You don't know. You don't know what situation you're going to be in. It could happen obviously, but it's also meant to it's meant to be funny, but at the same time, it's just such a good extreme example of you don't get to pick when. You might be sick. You might be with your wife. You might be with your kids. You might be with an elderly parent. You might be with strangers, but you're a nice guy and you may want to intervene for them, but you don't get to choose. Do you know what I mean? So you just always have to be ready because you don't get to pick the time or the place.
Yeah, that's good. Brad, you want to throw something on that?
Yeah, you know what? There's a lot obviously with it. For me, it really comes to conviction. It comes to certainty. When we're talking about some dude sitting in the bathtub enjoying just some relaxation and some downtime, and then there's all of a sudden a reason for this motherfucker to get out of the bathtub. He didn't come out of the bathtub being like, hey, what's going on? What's out there? Because he knew that there was a threat out there. He came out there at 10. And what I mean by 10 is mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. He had full control of his regulations, came out of 10. He went from half asleep, relaxing in the bubble bath to 10. I'll fucking kill you. Right? I'll take your life if that's where this is going. You know, because he came out at a 10. And for me, it's more of a visual for me. Like when I think of coming out of the bubble bath, it's like I'll get that little bit of a smirk because it is that visual. But it is the undeniable conviction of action, of ruthless and vicious intent to fucking doom on you. That's how I end it.
100%.
That just before you had yours, Greg, it's funny too because it hit me as Brad was talking. I'm like, well, yeah, this is also just an evolution of another saying we had, which was, done or not. Right? So you can add that into yours.
I think that's more Brad's saying. Well, I said Brad's kept it alive for 20 something years.
You're welcome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so I think you guys nailed it. Coming out of the bubble bath is going operational. And the story, real quick, actually, true story. Navy SEAL, obviously comes back from war, and he is taking a bubble bath, right? And I think the biggest part of the story is the fact that his wife obviously knows he's a Navy SEAL, but she's never seen that militaristic side of him, right? So he's very compartmentalized. So when he's at home, he's her husband, right? And yet, of course, at work as a highly trained operator, he's a trained killer. Like he's a machine. He's proficient. And so he's home having a bubble bath, and some dipshit kicks down their front door, and he hears his wife scream. And he comes out of the bubble bath, buck fucking naked, bubbles everywhere, and he bursts out of the bathroom door. And the interesting part is this: his wife actually thought it was a second intruder. I mean, even though she saw him and probably viscerally knew it was her husband, she said that she had never seen the tonality of his body. She had never seen the look in his face. She'd never felt that energy coming off her husband. So she couldn't believe that it was her husband. And of course, everyone can probably imagine the state that he came out. Now, not a wild man. He came out as an elite, highly skilled, highly focused, ready to do whatever needs to be done Navy SEAL. And so, of course, dispatched the intruder. But that's the part of the story that we all related to, where it's like, that's the thing. Your family, when you train this, may never fully get to see this side of you. But if and when shit happens, they're going to get to see you come out of the bubble bath. And it's just such a powerful motivation to reach for those high levels of control, your inner control box, to be able to flip that fucking switch. So that's what it means for us to say, you got to come out of the bubble bath. Okay. So, okay. Let's go to another one. Let's see. What's another good one that we could do here? Let's do this real quick because this has been our mantra from the very beginning. It's fairly, but come what may.
No. How do you sum that one up over the years? That one for me, almost like even the way that you presented it, like, and me saying that first comment, like, how do I sum that up over the years? Almost makes me emotional.
Yeah.
Because there's so much packed into that we've done over the years. There's so much, like, how big of a part that statement is for me over my lifetime is something that I've said millions of times, and it's powerful because it is, in my opinion, it is 100% acceptance of what's in front of you, right? Come what may. And yeah, just thinking about it makes me choke up. Like, that's powerful.
It's a powerful one, right?
I'll pass it off to Dustin.
Dustin, you go.
I'm like, yeah, it's funny. You literally, Brad, just took my word. Like, I was just waiting for him to finish so I could just hit it with like acceptance. To me, it's the ultimate acceptance of, just everything. It's kind of to me, it come what may, it connects to your faith in weaponizing as a process, as an identity, I think more than anything. And like Brad said, you start talking about this stuff and you feel it right away. Like it just, I don't know. To me, it's one of the most powerful sayings we have because again, it's that acceptance. It's that giving up the control of like, yeah, I can't. Like we talked about just a few minutes ago. I don't get to pick when, who, how, where. None of it. I don't get any choice. The only thing I can control is myself, which is why I've been weaponizing for I don't know, 24 years. It's like quarter of a century. Do you know what I mean? Because that's the only thing I can control. And so that's sort of that positive self-talk for all the things you can't control. It's like it doesn't even matter because it's like fuck it, come what may. It's going to be what it's going to be, but I'm going to be ready because I've spent the bulk of my adult life training for it, weaponizing.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Can I add one
Yeah.
thing? You know, we said the one of the sayings that we said, do something because it is something. It used to be do something before it becomes something, right? That evolved. Come what may is in as far as I can remember, from day one for me. I don't think that like that didn't come like that was day one part of my development, and that's never changed.
Yeah.
That saying has always for like the last 23, 24 years of our journey. That's never changed. That's why for me it was so powerful, even just like having to reflect on it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, what I would say to it, it echoes what Brad just said, which is it has been the number one. It's been one of the core fundamental pillars that this entire community and tribe has been built on. It has never changed. It has never wavered. It's been with us the entire time. It's been said millions of times. It's been felt and lived and adhered to, and conviction of belief has been built around it. And I think the only thing I could share with people is, for me, why it's so powerful is because it starts with really, and this is the way I used to explain it back in the early days, was that violence is really, and this has changed a bit, but violence is really a question where there is no answer. No clear, obvious answer, right? Now that's changed a bit because there is actually an answer to it. But what I meant is this. When I say violence, there is no answer to violence, meaning that it's the question you can't answer. Because here it is. When are you going to get attacked? I don't know. How many people are going to attack you? I don't know. What time of day is it going to be? I don't know. Will they have any weapons with them? I don't know. What's their intent going to be? I don't know. What's your health going to be? I don't know. Are you going to be by yourself? I don't know. Are you going to have your kids with? I don't know. You get what I mean? It goes on and goes on and goes on. Where all this stuff we don't know. And when someone can ask you that many questions about something, can you imagine? You're going on a plane? Yeah, I'm leaving in half an hour. Does the plane have wings? Fuck, I don't know. I hope so. Otherwise, it won't be flying. Is the engine good? Has it been mechanically checked? Fuck, I don't know. Does the pilot, have you actually seen his license? Like, is this his first time? Fuck, I don't know. Like, did the seat, I don't fucking know. Like, does the oxygen, I don't fucking know. Like, if you have that many questions asked and you go, I don't fucking know, you probably won't get on that plane. Why? Because you're like, until someone gives me some fucking answers, the only reason we do it is to go, is the pilot experienced? Well, I would hope so. Like, they hired him, they trained him, he must have a pilot's license. Somebody must check that shit, right? Yeah. Is the plane, like, mechanically sound? Well, fuck, they must check that shit, right? Don't they? You get what I mean? Like, we only can do it because we go, well, I assume somebody did. Or we go, oh, there's a regulatory body that demands this. Oh, okay, good. Then, whoo, you know what I mean? I feel better. But in violence, when you can ask that many questions about something that could cost you your life, and the answers are all, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, how the fuck do you overcome that fear? How do you not just be paralyzed? The answer is your training can't answer those specific questions, but when you train the right way, it can lead you to the answer, and the answer is come what fucking may. It teaches you mass attack, weapons, kicking, punching, trapping, ground fighting. Like, what else can somebody do to you? There's 6 elements, right? Kick, punch, trap, wrestle, weapons, and mass attack. And then combine all those things. Mass attack with weapons on the ground, stand up, click, come on. Like, you get me? When you train properly and you understand how to train, which is what the weaponizing in, when somebody is bulletproofing you, at the end of the day, it's like, how many are there? I'm going to pull to a little bit of a Spartan quote, right? The Spartans don't ask how many. The Spartans ask, where is the enemy? Do you get what I mean? Like, so it's this thing where, like, what time of day? I don't know. But come what may, it'll be whatever the fuck it is. You know, what if they kick your door down at 3 o'clock in the morning? That's why I got my knife beside my bed. That's why my house is layered with 3M. That's why I have this. That's why I understand my choke points. That's why I've done my blueprinting. That's why I've done this. So fuck them, come what may. Oh, what if there's 2 guys and 1 guy's got a knife? Well, that's why I have my weapon, and that's why I do this, and that's why I do this. That's this. So fuck them, come what may. What about if this happens? Fuck them, come what may. What if they get you when you got a broken leg and you're out with a cast and you got crutches? That's why my crutch, if you pop the end off, has a fucking sword in it. I'll cut his fucking head off. That's why I do this. That's why I do this. That's why I've compensated this. So fuck him, come what may. What about fuck him, come what may? Like, you know what I mean? Like, dude, you can spitball whatever you want. The training's bulletproof. The training's 360 degrees and 3-dimensional. Right? Strategy, tactics, tools, simplistic, not complicated. You know what I mean? So it's like if something changes in my world, I'm adapting my training to meet that. Why? Because come what may. Because I don't know all these things. You know, and then all of a sudden, as you get deeper into it, and our education and our study of criminals has progressed, we understand that actually we can criminal profile these fuckers. That's the bad guy blueprints. And actually you can start answering some of those questions that you thought before you couldn't answer. But you still always comes back to what? Fuck you, come what may. Because that's what the training is. That's why, do you train in environments? You train in low light, no light, and water on the floor, and ice, and you train in winter, you train in frozen hands, you train with this, you train with that. Yeah, that's why we do that shit. Come what fucking may. That's why you train in a car and have another car slam into you and run you off the road, and a guy jumps out the tire end and smashes out your fucking window. For real. That's why you do this shit. That's why you go to those extremes. Why? Because I've been there, done that, and I'm adapting, so come what fucking may. So at the end of it, you don't, the what if game is silly. It's just, you know, there's possible and probable, and you're training for what's possible. Or sorry, for what's probable. Who cares about what's possible? Like 30 ninjas could fast rope out of a helicopter. It's possible, but it's fucking super improbable. So that became the power of answering the question that has no answer. Come what may is the answer. And you just built a confidence in people that they didn't give a fuck anymore. They had an awareness and they go, fuck, I'm going to see shit coming anyhow. And I see that shit coming. Or if I don't see that shit coming, fuck it, come what may. Because I've been viscerally trained. Stimulus fucking response. I'm not going to shit. Well, I'm not going to crack. I'm not going to have a startle flinch. I'm going to respond. I'm going to take definitive action. Anyways, you get kind of thing. So that's the power of come what may, as not just a saying and a mantra, but a training methodology, right? Does that kind of make sense? So hopefully. So anyways, that's a powerful one. Okay, let's do this. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. I actually
the first thing that hits
leading into
me,
that.
I think the first thing that kind of hit me with that is, again, just being more focused on more like the mindset of things. You know what I mean? It kind of gets more into, I guess, of course, how you do it, but sort of like the why behind what you're doing. Do you know what I mean? And when you talk to people like, oh, what do you do? I feel like that's very martial arty, very combative sport type mentality. Because again, it all focuses in on the actual what, like, oh, it's, you know, it's kicks or it's punches or it's whatever it is. It doesn't matter, whatever martial art or whatever. It makes no difference. Whereas for us, it's like, we obviously have our select, you know, arsenal of tools and techniques and tactics and things. But at the end of the day, it's like, we'll change any of that at any time. At the drop of a hat, we'll change anything. If someone shows us something that will work better, because all we care about is the result. Do you know what I mean? And so I think for me, when you say like, oh yeah, like it's not what you do, it's how you do it. It's like, well, what's the result you're looking for? That's what really matters. So who gives a shit how you, like, what you did to get it? It's like, how did you do it? How did you get that result that you were looking for? If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah, for me to articulate where that resonates with me is 100% connected to emotional context, right? So everything that you do has an emotional context to it. It's like, which ties it to, is like, it's not what you do, it's how you do it, right? If you want to break down, and we don't want to get into this fully, but body mechanics, weight transfer, follow through, emotional content, and placement accuracy. So that emotional content is part of everything that you do, and everything that you do has a different emotional context to it, right? So for me, it's that energy behind how you're doing things, that attitude, right? Um, I like the word attitude because it has that. It's a little dirty sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Like you got grit on how you're doing something. You got a little bit of fuck you on everything that you're doing. So it's not what you're doing; it's what is fueling the what you're doing. You know, the emotional context behind that. And that's I know that we could go deeper into emotional context, but I'll leave it on that kind of base level for tonight for sure.
Yeah, for me, the saying, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. You guys have already kind of said it, but it's like right now the whole world wants to know, like Dustin alluded to this. What do you do? Do you do jujitsu? Do you do kickboxing? But it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Jiu-jitsu is a part of what we do. Gracie Jiu-jitsu is a part of what we do, but it's not what we do. It's how we do it that changes. Context determines content, right? And that would be, because that's another saying we use, but I grouped it with this one, knowing that if we got to talking about this, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Context determines content. So the second you can be doing Gracie Jiu-jitsu, and yet people be like, that doesn't seem like Gracie Jiu-jitsu. And it's like, well, it 100% comes from Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. But it doesn't feel like you're doing Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And how is that possible? Because it's not what you're doing, it's how you're doing it. And that's the context. And the context is fucking violence. Life and death, it's combat, it's militaristic. And that changes the content, right? Because the context is so fucking different, right? So again, it's one of these things where it might not mean a ton to people in the beginning, they'll hear it. But as they get a little bit into the process, then they start seeing that every drill, every scenario, every lecture, every action, it's not what we do, it's how we do it, which is why people sometimes have difficulty explaining. So you went to your course, like, what is it you guys, like, what did you do? Give us an example. And it's like, fuck, man, it's like we did some groundwork, we did some knife work. Oh, so it's like jujitsu. Oh, it's like Kali. Oh, it's like, no, it's not. I don't know how to explain because it's not what we do, it's how we do it. The context is so fucking different that it changes the content, right? So, and then that becomes powerful. And then my final point with that is that why that's important is because you guys said this already. What's your end goal? To survive violence. That's all we give a fuck about. We don't care about the what we're doing. We'll change that as we need to. The how we're doing it never changes because how we're doing it, the goal is survive violence. And so as violence changes and the environment, we've said this a few times tonight, the toxic, corrosive, septic nature of violence, if that mutates and changes as it tends to do, then how we do things rolls with that because it has to. You have to have your finger on the pulse, right? You can't fight wars today like you did in the 1950s, right? The original frogmen that preceded the SEAL teams and special warfare like that can't train and operate the way that they used to. And so neither can we. So it's not what they do, because what they do has some similar connections to the origins of things. How they do it has to be on the vanguard of what's happening now. So context determines content. So, and then we got time, I think, for one more. We're at an hour, but we'll go one more quick one. And I think this is just a good one to end with. Maybe there's so many on here that I want to talk about. We might have to do a part 2 to this, but
I think we got enough for part 3.
Yeah, we have. There's a lot here. You cannot outrun or outperform who you truly believe yourself to be. This one's big for me.
Yeah, it's your identity. I know that I've reflected a lot on that. It's part of you. You can't move forward and change any part of yourself, grow any part of yourself if you can't see that as who you are, right? And really, who you truly believe yourself to be, and that's deep work. This is for me when I think about that. Like I said, it really roots down to identity, but then it's like when I had to craft my identity, My identity didn't just happen. I think it happens for some people, but through this process, we create our identity, right? We put deep work into that. And that saying is that reflection that really makes me think of, well, who am I? Who do I believe myself to be? What do I stand for? What do I value? What do I believe? Where's my land? Where's my line in the sand? Right? Those things come from who I truly believe myself to be, and I can't outrun and outperform who that person is. Right? So I need to change that person. I need to change where I really believe myself to be, so I could achieve the things that I'm growing and expanding into being. Right? Yeah. So it's, again, for me, identity. Period. 100%. It's my. That's me.
Yeah, we did a podcast, I don't know, 6 months ago or something, and we talked about how people will only ever do what they truly believe will work and what they truly believe that they can actually do, which kind of ties into everything Brad was just talking about. One of the things I love most, I think we all do, about weaponizing is because it goes so much further than just, not to make this sound too simple, but like it's not just the superficial layer of like, oh yeah, learning how to protect yourself. Like it's not just about that. That's like in a way such a small part of it. It's like weaponizing is total human development. And that's like the best part, especially for people who don't do this already. They hear a lot of the stuff we talk about, and there's probably people out there who think like, well, I'm not like that. I don't think like that. I don't feel like that. I don't like, how could I ever do this? And it's like, guess what? Neither did we. We all started in the exact same place. The best part of this is like, it's all built into the process. Another saying that's probably on your list somewhere, work the process works.
Yeah.
I finish all my articles in the newsletter with that statement, because for me, it's such a powerful one, because again, it takes the pressure off of you. It's like, you don't have to come in with anything special. You can be fucking nobody and just come in and you can weaponize. And like Brad said, it's because it is so linked to your identity, but that's the beauty of it. The process builds the identity for you.
Yeah.
You just got to be along for the ride. You got to be willing. You got to want it. And then that's all it takes. And so to me, it's like that whole phrase of like, you can't, for long outrun or outperform who you truly believe yourself to be. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because if you're trying to fake it, it's like, that's only going to last for so long. Yeah. But the culture, the process, it builds who you want to be, so then you don't have to try and outrun or outperform who you truly are.
Yeah, it's powerful. And like I said, this one for me is huge and almost as powerful as the come what may saying, because for me, I'll try to be really, really brief with this, but because I was the victim of an attempted murder, right? And it was bad. And I, prior to that, had done martial arts and combative sports. And so I wanted to be and believed that I was the type of man that could defend myself and other people. Then you experience violence, and I recognize that all of my training had nothing to do with fucking violence. So be careful what you train. You can get good at the wrong fucking thing. I got good at the wrong fucking thing. For me, I didn't care about the sport, the competition, the belts, trophies, titles. I didn't give a fuck about that. I just wanted to learn to protect myself. Violence is very different. And so it shattered me. The physical injuries took over a year to heal. But what really shattered me was that complete and absolute decimation of my self-image as a person who could, quote unquote, fight or protect himself. And so when I started, saying, listen, I realized that, and I was, not going down a good path, and realized I got to find a solution to this. Even when I found, and I got blessed to find my mentors this world will ever get exposure to, that type of high-level training, it was obviously amazing, and I was developing skills and knowledge and all this type of stuff. But the problem was, and I knew this, even in the first 2 to 3 years of training, very intense, prolonged training, I knew that I was wearing a mask, right? Meaning that my mask was that, I'm doing this amazing stuff. I'm weaponizing my, training with the guys that are teaching SEAL teams and all this type of stuff. And these guys are badasses, therefore I'm a badass too. But that was a mask that was covering the fact that I couldn't outrun or outperform the fact that I saw myself as someone who had failed and could no longer protect themselves. I wasn't a man, all that type of stuff. So, like I said, 3 years into it, with the help of my instructors, they were able to help me kind of get rid of that bravado-esque mask, because real warriors, A, they can see that bullshit, and B, they won't tolerate it. And so the training, the process, like you're talking about, the weaponizing process, puts a mirror in front of you and it peels away masks that you think you can hide behind, and it forces you to see you for who you are. And so I remember in that moment having to make and wanting to make a real commitment to being like, I need to figure out how to change my self-image. Like, how do I change my self-belief, my self-identity? Who I truly believe myself to be? And I started, going to psychology courses and reading things, and just saturating with everything that I possibly could to start figuring out how to break down paradigms and how to, deconstruct belief patterns and, neurolinguistic programming and all of this other stuff that I needed to do. And again, like Dustin, you said, the process, it's a byproduct. You start having this shift. But a lot of that is in there because of what I had to go through and a lot of the work. And so I had to bring these elements into it, because I realized that it's not just me that needs this, it's we all need this. We all are saddled with, beliefs and paradigms and limiting things that, that we've learned in our childhood and, that control us and blah, 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 blah. So the idea that you can't outrun or outperform who you truly believe yourself to be is, again, saying this shit will hold a mirror up. And if you're willing to, it'll strip away the mask and let you see you for who you really are. And control only ever follows awareness, which is another saying we have. And if you are willing to become aware, then you can make the change. Because all of the tools, the neurolinguistic programming, how to break down beliefs and build up beliefs and change paradigms and all that shit, none of that works unless you have an awareness of who's truly hiding underneath you. What is your true nature? And so, I don't have to get into it any more than that, other than to say that this process is what allowed me to shift my nature, to really change who I am, my self-image, and become the man that I wanted to be and the man that I am today. I love, you quoted Tony Robbins earlier, and he has a saying that I love where he says, in this kind of roundabout way, but he says, like, I built this motherfucker standing here. Mm-hmm. Like, I built this motherfucker. Like, I say that, and I went through a period where I said a lot. It's like looking in the mirror being like, I am building this motherfucker standing in front of the mirror. I built myself. And everybody can do that. This process has helped me build myself into what I am. And listen, I'm not sitting there saying, oh, I'm a badass this. I don't need to be. I am who I am. I'm a fucking weaponized man. I have been studying violence and training violence and preparing for violence. And I've done it and I've used it and I've successfully protected. I am who I am. And yet I have no disillusions that I can be killed or that violence could take me. I am who I am. I am weaponized man, and I continue every single day to fucking train and to weaponize and to help other men do that. So with all of my faults and all of my things, good qualities, I am who the fuck I am, and I'm continuing to shape that. So I don't have to outrun or outperform who I believe myself to be, because I know who the fuck I am, and I'm working on that. And there's power in that. And to live a life of conviction where I live my values every single day. Not everybody agrees with my values, and they don't have to. But I have the balls, the courage, the stamina, the fortitude, the endurance, the belief to stand up for what I believe in and be who I am authentically. That's powerful stuff. And so, that's a huge quote for me. And I think the last thing that I want to end it with is I often use a saying, and it's this gentleman's name is Carter Goodwin Woodson. And he wrote a book called The Miseducation of the Negro. And can you imagine at a time when slavery was ending, can you imagine what your self-image was or would have been coming out of slavery, where another human being owned you? How would you know what I mean? Like, and he wrote this quote, and this is really, really powerful. And he said that if you can control a man's thinking, you don't have to worry about his actions. When you determine that a man shall think, you do not have to concern yourself about what he will do. If you make a man feel like he's inferior, you will not have to compel him to accept an inferior status, for he will seek it himself. If you make a man think that he is justly an outcast, you do not have to order him to the back door. He will go without being told. And if there is no back door, his very nature will demand one. And that to me is just so powerful, because however you see yourself, your nature is going to demand that. And so if underneath the masks of bullshit and bravado that we wear as men a lot of times, if you see yourself as a victim, or if you see yourself as weak, or you see whatever it is, your subconscious and your nature will demand that you act in alignment with that. And I just always found that to be so powerful because, again, it tied in with such an important part of my journey, which was to overcome that victim mindset, right? So anyways, yeah, that was, I think, a good one to end on. It's powerful. It's deep. There's lots to it. I think that every single time that anyone comes and starts working, the second you walk through the door and you start weaponizing that process, you're rewiring who you are. You're going to rewire your entire self-image of yourself, your self-beliefs, because it's going to force you to challenge limiting beliefs that you have or might have about yourself. Well, let's be honest, we all have them. And it will show you a way through that, a way to reconfigure that serves you far better in every aspect of your life, including the ability to defend yourself and your loved ones. So anyways, okay, so listen, tonight's Bullets Don't Work and 10 other things that you need to know. This was, only a part of the list. Like I said, I just in a few minutes compiled well over 30. We got through 10. We'll leave it at that. At some point, we'll do another part 2. If you'd like to see more on this, leave us some comments, let us know, and we'll make it happen. But this was really fun. So thank you guys so much for sharing your insights, as always, on these different important mantras and training methodologies and beliefs that we have and use and part of our language and that of the warrior community. I think it was really helpful for people to hear this stuff. So hopefully everybody listening enjoyed it. If you did, please like, share, comment, pass it on. That's how we grow this. We appreciate you all. Until next time, please stay safe, stay weaponized. We're going to chat again soon, everybody.